I use my roommate's face towel to clean up his pee. He still hasn't noticed. I leave fake parking tickets on cars that deserve real ones. I used to steal coffee from Starbucks. A couple years ago, I downloaded the Starbucks app and signed up for a membership to save my card and orders and such. After signing up, you get a coupon in your email for a free coffee of any make/size. At first, I didn't know you had to load it to the app after ordering, so when I went up to the counter and ordered my usual venti caramel frappuccino with an extra pump of caramel and extra caramel drizzle, I proceeded to show the barista the code I had in the email, and he said it has to be loaded onto the app. I honestly had no clue how to use the code, but instead of going through the whole process on the app, he just let me have the free drink. I took this knowledge and used it on other Starbucks throughout my town for almost a year. Now, I'm not a total dirtbag because every time I got a free drink, I'd buy a square of lemon cake and leave a couple dollar tip. At least you're not screwing over the employee. You're still tipping them and still, appreciating what they're doing. I would think they'd catch on at some point. Starbucks rotates baristas faster than this guy rotates his underwear. Good racket. Should continue. Steal from the rich. You did God's work. It is always morally acceptable to steal from big corporations. I lied about completing a project in the 8th grade and passed anyway. I completely and 100% despised homework as a kid, and about half of my teenage years. When I was in the 8th grade, we were assigned a project towards the end of the year that counted for a big percentage of our overall grade. From what I can remember, it had something to do with shapes and equations. It was basically like a large project of everything we learned the whole year. I didn't want to do it. I worked on it a very small amount here and there, but never completed it. The math teacher collected them over a period of a few days, and then was going to spend a few more days grading them all. I played along to all my other classmates that I turned mine in and even explained what it, maybe, looked like. The day came and she was finishing up grading all of them, and as she finished each one, she gave them back. So some students had already taken theirs home. So she's sitting at her desk and asks, "Spoopy pup, have I graded yours yet?" And I quickly replied, "Yes, ma'am. You gave it back to me a couple days ago." Some wonderful, powerful magic force was working hard that day because all she said was, "Oh, I forgot to write your grade down. Do you remember what it was?" I didn't want to aim too high because I knew what work I was capable of, so I simply said, "You wrote 89. And she just wrote it down in her grade book. She didn't question to see it again or anything. I couldn't believe it worked. That was the only time that ever worked, but it worked nonetheless. I passed math because of that lie. I did learn to just suck it up and do all the work from then on. At least kudos to you for learning your lesson in a weird reverse way. Teacher knew, but didn't want to put up with nagging you to turn in your project and or have to fail you. I don't know, there are some teachers that are a little bit forgetful, so I kind of believe they might have just forgotten. This is my recurring nightmare. I'm glad I know how it ends. Why is this a nightmare? They got away with it. It's not a nightmare, it's a dream. I secretly changed our bed. Me and my wife bought a new bed, a really expensive one, the kind that has separate firmness on each side. We spent hours and hours in the store where my wife took her time testing and deciding what kind of lower mattress she wanted on her side. Beforehand, she had done extensive web research on what kind of bed would give her most happiness in life and so on. Eventually, she settled for one with firmness between soft and medium. Me, I couldn't be bothered with that. I've always liked my bed soft, but the store lady said that with my body composition, I should have a hard mattress. So during a brief brain fart, I chose that. Next morning, I knew I had effed up. The $2,000 bed I'd just bought felt awful. Even worse, when installing it, I'd taken the plastic wrapping off the lower mattresses so I couldn't return them. The solution? While my wife was at work, I flipped the bed 180 degrees so that now I have the soft mattress and she has the concrete slab. There are 2 additional full-width, thick mattresses on top of those, so it's not immediately noticeable. This was 5 years ago. I've slept like a baby ever since. My wife apparently still hasn't noticed. At least she hasn't said anything, and she seems to sleep well. She must never know, though. Well, there are worse things to lie about, I guess. What if she found out, flipped the bed again, and you are the one that hasn't realized yet? It is possible, but if they didn't like the hard mattress, they probably would have noticed pretty quick. Dude, you sleep on a literal bed of lies. My favorite thing working as a window washer was going through people's private possessions. So I worked worked as a window washer in my small town in Sweden for about 5 years. Every morning you went to the warehouse where we had all of our stuff, drank a cup of coffee with your coworkers, and talked for a bit before getting to know the places you had to go to that day and who you had to do them with. Our bosses were very keen on everyone getting to know everyone, so they changed up the teams every day. This meant sometimes you got to go out by yourself. A typical workday is going to 4 to 5 houses and or apartments, sometimes old people, they were always home, sometimes families who were home because they knew we were coming. Not very often, you got people who left their key under the mat and let us go inside without them being home. I like this the most, since you didn't have anyone breathing down your neck while you worked. And sometimes, once in a blue moon, you got a house with nobody home by yourself. I don't know if there's something wrong with me, maybe, but to me, it felt like I had struck gold, because I knew I would be able to walk around that house by myself, check out every inch of it. I usually started by doing my job super fast, make sure I had some way of knowing if they got home. Usually I placed a ladder somewhere close to the door, so if someone came home, they had to move it. Then I got to work. I never looked to steal anything. It was pure curiosity. I looked through bathroom cabinets, nightstands, desk drawers, and basically anything that you could open, while making sure everything I touched was placed back exactly where it was before. During my years, I found diaries with dark secrets, cute secrets, and just downright weird secrets. I found used condoms in the teenage boys' room, dildos and vibrators in the daughter's/mother's nightstands. I found a gun under a mattress, which in Sweden is not something you see every day. One couple had a swing hanging in the bedroom, so it's not really something I needed to look for, but I thought it was strange that they didn't take it down when they knew people were going to be in the house. I once opened a teenager's MacBook and boom! Paused mid-video. No password, no incognito window, nothing. Jewelry, expensive watches, and knives. One kid had 3 knives welded together like a ninja star but with a handle. Like I said, never stole anything. That wasn't my goal. I just loved going through other people's shit. It's wrong, I know that, but I couldn't help myself. While this is a very inappropriate and wrong thing to do, I can't say that I wouldn't do the same. Ever wonder if your house guests snoop in your bathroom cupboards? Strategically place several marbles in the bathroom cabinets. Works every time. Fair warning, odds are if they're fine with you in the house, they have cameras. Especially nowadays, everybody has those Ring cameras outside, inside, just wherever. My grandma does this too. She's banned from coming to me and my wife's place ever again. I recorded a over my aunt's wedding video. When I was 14 and 15, I stayed with my aunt Cindy for a week while I was working a job. The commute to my job was very long and she lived much closer. It sounds weird to work so young and also travel for work, but it was a family business. I couldn't sleep as usual, lifelong insomniac, and I'm awake at 3 a.m. flipping through channels on her satellite package. Flip, flip, flip. Wait a minute, was that a flip back and see real honest to God my aunt had subscribed the Playboy channel. #jackpot. It's in the dead of night. No lights on. I've got the volume down as low as possible, but this is in the living room, and it's a big open area in the middle of the house. So I've got one eye on nasty office get promoted, and the other eye keeping watch. I hear someone get up and go into a bathroom. Frick! I turn the TV off, but the satellite is still on. I dig through her entertainment center looking for a blank tape, find one, and slip it into the VCR. I set it to record and then go to bed. I lay awake in bed terrified because if I fall asleep and someone turns on the TV before I get up, they're gonna know it was turned to a dirty channel. When the first pinky streaks of morning show in the sky, I'm up and in damage control mode. I snatch the tape, change the channel, make sure everything is neat and tidy with the tapes underneath the TV. That's when I find a yellowed label that has fallen off a tape. It says, Cindy and Daryl Wedding, 1985. No. Look at the blank tape in my hand, see the faint outline of where a label used to be. They lined up perfectly. No! Suddenly, I have this smoking gun of a horrible thing I did in my possession. Anybody who watched the tape would see 30 seconds of her getting ready with her bridesmaids, cut to half of a set in the workplace, then it cuts out later to reveal mid-wedding ceremony. What could be more sacrilegious? I never watched the tape with any joy. I never told anyone. I just kept it hidden like some awful burden. Oh my god, that is so bad. That's just so unfortunate. Finally, a that ends with marriage. Didn't think we'd see it. Don't think that's quite it still, but it's something. My favorite bit is, I never watched the tape with any joy. Yeah, that does kind of imply that you did watch it, maybe a few times. I used to go into random homes in my neighborhood when the occupants weren't home. This was in the mid-80s when security wasn't like it is now, and also lots of families didn't even lock their doors. The first thing I ever did was when I was riding my bike in the neighborhood and saw a front door of a home wide open. I peeked in and said, "Hello?" just to see if someone was home. No one answered. I stood in the living room just scanning the area and got spooked and left. After that day, I was hooked on it. I would wait for people to leave and enter through whichever door/window was open and would walk around. I never stole anything, but I did open drawers, closets, and went through personal belongings. I once found a wad of money rolled up in a sock. I took the money and sock and put it in the next drawer over. I felt like I needed to leave a mark, so I ended up moving dishes and cabinets. Like I switched the cups with plates and moved utensil drawers to another spot in the kitchen. I did this in about 8 or 9 homes until people started talking and getting suspicious. And of course, people started locking their doors, including our family. I stopped after that. Someone did call the police, but nothing ever came of it since nothing was stolen. I haven't trespassed in anyone's home, but I do switch things around in other homes when I'm invited over. What is this weird trend of people just kind of breaking and entering to snoop around, like for nothing else, just to look? I find it funny how you wanted to F with people, but sort of respected their boundaries at the same time. Didn't steal anything but those people's sense of security and comfort of their home. Hilarious. You should have stolen the sock and left the money. If it were my money sock, I think I'd be going crazy just seeing that my sock was gone, but the money's perfectly fine. I'd go insane thinking about it for weeks. Indirectly broke a dryer at a laundromat, then gave a fake name and number to the owner. Last night was doing laundry at the local laundromat. I had 3 washers going at once. Now normally you fill the wash, add detergent, add quarters, and select the cycle. When I press the cycle button normally, the previously selected cycle button pops out, kinda like a switch. I didn't notice it, but it happened with this washer. So the washer had 2 cycle buttons pressed. After half hour goes by and washer 1 and 2 are done, but washer 3 is still on the first part of the cycle. Now, it being 9 p.m. and with the placing closing at 10, I decided to take the unfinished soaking wet clothes and put them in the dryer. About 2 minutes into the dryer, the laundry attendant said I broke the dryer because of the wet clothes. She took my wet clothes and put it in a machine that just spins the clothes dry and then put them back in the dryer. She asked for my name and phone number, so I wrote down Trevor LaHaye and some random collection of 10 digits. Those of you who watch Trailer Park Boys will understand. So as the last dryer is finishing, the owner comes in and asks me what happened. He couldn't believe that washer 3 didn't spin dry my clothes and was stuck in the same cycle for 1.5 hours until I had to physically show him how all the other washers work the same except for washer 3. He still even tried to spin it on me for breaking the dryer because I didn't tell the attendant about the washer. So anyway, he grabbed the piece of paper with my fake name and number and said that he'll give me a call tomorrow, today, to see how much the dryer is gonna cost to be fixed or replaced. LOL. F off. I think that's what they call the cost of doing business. I can't believe they would try to make you pay. Scumbags. At least at the start, it kinda makes sense, like, hey, you broke our dryer, please help us replace it. But after they found out that it's still kinda their fault, yeah, they don't get to ask you to pay for it. You broke the microwave by putting something too cold in it. You broke the fridge by putting warm leftovers in it. Yeah, how dare you put wet clothes in a clothes dryer? I entered a stranger's house to avoid a DUI. How are these people getting in other people's homes? I live in Australia. Not sure how it works in the rest of the world, but I was on my provisional driver's license as a teenager. We call them P plates. And when you are on that, you cannot have any alcohol in your blood whatsoever. I stayed at my mate's place one night and he had some beers to drink. I had 2, knowing I had to drive the next day and was gonna stop, but he convinced me to have another, so I did. The next day, I got in my car to drive home, and as I was turning a corner, there was a couple police doing a RBT, random breath test, and I panicked. I knew full well I'd have a little bit of alcohol in me, and that's enough to lose my license for a couple months. I had just left school and gotten a really good job, and if I got a drink driving charge, I would have to rely on my parents to drive me there, which wouldn't work out as they both have jobs. I panicked and turned right onto another street. I drove halfway down the road thinking I had gotten away with it, but one of the cars suddenly turned around the corner and blasted the siren. I pulled over and the cop cop came to my window. Cop, can you explain to me why you just avoided an RBT? Instead of explaining to the cop why and just taking my punishment, I decided to lie. Me? I wasn't trying to avoid it. I live down here. Cop, whereabouts do you live? Me? Just over there. Cop, well, you wouldn't mind if I follow you and watch you enter your house for proof, do you? Kind of pooped myself, but agreed. He got in his car and I drove into a driveway halfway down the street and walked up to the door. My current plan was just to explain to whoever's at the door what's going on and hope he lets me inside. I walked up and knocked, but no one answered. Then I looked over my shoulder at the cop and turned just to open the door, and it was unlocked. I walked inside and shut the door. I was really scared for if whoever lived there was gonna walk out and see me and scream, but no one did. I stayed at the door peeking out the window at the cop, and he left after about 10 minutes. I waited another 10 minutes before walking down and driving off again with a big sigh of relief. Not here to condone drink driving or anything. I made a mistake and it was wrong. Just sharing this story. I think if I managed to skirt past the law that hard, that might make me believe in God. The amount of luck here is staggering. For real, you must have used a cheat code or something, because I've never seen a luck stat so high. This is crazy. My knees would have been shaking. Yeah, if I were in this situation, I'd be so nervous and scared. I would have honestly just admitted what I did to the cop because I'm a baby. You thought you'd still have alcohol in your blood after 3 beers the night before? LOL. Admittedly, I'm not too sure how long it takes for alcohol to leave your system, but 3 beers the night before really wouldn't have done anything to you. I shoplifted over $6,000 worth of clothing in one stint. This was almost 10 years ago. I was a sales associate as a teen at a well-known chain retail skate store. It was a cool job, but my store manager sucked. Just rude and aggressive all the time. Bullied the staff every day. I rocked it as a salesperson. I doubled my goals almost daily. Always at least met them. One day, the store manager got our numbers for the quarter. We were a little behind where we should have been, but there were also 2 new associates who weren't carrying their weight. Store manager blamed me for the numbers and accused me of giving discounts to people and allowing others to shoplift. I had never done either of those things. I was livid. So, one night, with a group of 4 friends or so, one of which used to work at the store with me, we came up with a plan to raid the place to give the store manager something to actually complain about. So, I went into my shift on a Sunday morning, knowing the assistant manager would be hungover. I convinced him to take a nap out back and that I wouldn't tell if he let me claim the sales for the day. He didn't care about anything, so it was an easy yes. Cue my friends coming in, acting as customers with their beach bags as I'm working with regular customers on the floor alone. A customer, friend, would bring their purchase to the counter to ring out and have the security tags removed and then immediately go into the changing room and bag it. Bring it to their car, wait 20 minutes, do it all over again. We all had lists of items we wanted, and I had mine piled on the counter ready to be taken. In 1 hour, we completed the list and my friends left. The assistant manager came back from his nap oblivious. I wrapped up my shift and went home. We divided up the clothing and celebrated. Never got caught. I put my notice in the next day, and that was that. Old friend from work told me when the next quarterly report came out, after I quit, the numbers were so bad from shrink, inventory of clothing missing with no money to show for it, the store manager got demoted. Was it wrong? Yes. Would I do it again? No. Do I regret it? Not even a little bit. This reminds me of a heist right out of GTA. I sort of see your point, just with less guns and death. Don't get me wrong, I'm judging you, but I'm also impressed. I stole thousands of dollars in change over 2 years working at McDonald's. When I was 16, I got a job at McDonald's. I hated making food and working front counter. I always asked to work drive-through window, taking money at the first window. This was before credit cards, so everyone paid in cash. All I would do was keep a quarter or dime of almost everyone's change I gave back. I would put that extra quarter or dime in a special spot in the register. Once I got 5 or 10 worth of change, I would dump the change into the right spot and pocket a 10 or 5. Some nights I would leave with over $50 in cash. A lot to a 16-year-old me. No one ever caught on. Only twice I can remember people telling me I gave them the wrong amount of change back. I would just act like a dumb kid who miscounted. I don't know how nobody at work caught on because I always had a ton of change at the end of the day. This is called shortchanging, and it's illegal. But if I found out a kid did this to me, I honestly wouldn't even be mad. My change always ends up in couch cushions anyways. Well, you're perfectly suited to run a big business. Anybody who is pissed about this better hate Domino's for delivery fees. The biggest crime of delivery fees at any delivery job is that it does not go to the delivery driver. It is not a tip, it is just some extra money that the business wanted. As a child, I copied a poem from a book and won first place in a poetry contest. When I was in the 3rd grade, I was very into reading/writing and often stayed up far past my bedtime reading anything within my comprehension level that I could get my hands on. We had a stack of children's encyclopedias I loved on all sorts of topics: dinosaurs, the planets, world history, etc., including one of stories/poems. One poem stood out in particular. It was about solitude in nature and really struck a chord with me. Because I loved the poem so much, I copied it down into a journal I had of my own writing and passages/poems I found inspiration in. Because I was so young, talking single digits here, it never occurred to me to write down the author or anything, especially not in my own journal. A few weeks went by and my mom had stumbled upon journal while cleaning my room. She read the poem and assumed it was original writing. She approached me about it that night and was so proud of it. Like any 8-year-old, I wanted my mom's approval and pride, so I didn't tell her I had actually found the poem in a book. I didn't think it would be a big deal, and she was so proud. Fast forward a month or two, my mom is reading the Sunday paper and sees a poetry contest for young people. She immediately thinks of my poem and insists I enter. That afternoon, she had my dad drive us to his office so she could type it up before home computers. She sends a copy into the newspaper and, of course, because it's an 8-year-old's name on an adult's published poem, it wins the first prize in my age group. My parents are so happy with me and I feel so incredibly guilty. Within the next month, the poem and my picture are ran on the front page of the arts section in the paper. I'm invited to read the poem as part of an award ceremony for all the contest's participants. Of course, I go because my mom wanted us to, and why wouldn't I? I get a small award, a ribbon, and maybe a gift card? I don't remember. What I do remember is feeling so incredibly guilty. I have spent more sleepless hours over this poem than I can count. A few years later, we learn about plagiarism in school, and I feel as though I'm being personally called out. I remember tearing out the book's page with the poem, ripping it up and throwing it away, wrapped in an unused sanitary napkin because I was so afraid anyone would find out. It's been 20 years since that award ceremony, and even though I realize it was a childhood mistake that isn't even that large, I still can't quite shake the guilt. I mean, like, you were 8. I think it's fine, you know? Like, who's gonna find out now? As a kid, I traced a picture from Cartoon Network magazine, sent it into Cartoon Network magazine, and then won first place in their art competition. I mean, really, that might be Cartoon Network's fault because they had the picture in the magazine. They should have been able to see how traced it was. Well, these are the things that keep you up at night. I used to charge a kid a made-up fat tax. A long time ago, I was a high schooler at a boarding school. I was a decent kid in the eyes of the teachers and school administration. In fact, they liked me so much that throughout my time there, I was able to rise through the student ranks. I became a prefect, then I became the head boy, and at one point I had passed training that allowed me to run my own sports sessions or event where I was supervising younger and even a few older kids. This was just basic training for first aid, situational awareness, etc. At one point, the school had so much trust in me that I was allowed to leave the school premises alone in the afternoons. This was huge, and very few students had this privilege. In typical fashion, as soon as I received the privilege, I began abusing my power as a free man. The school was very adamant on getting us balanced meals, so we weren't allowed to get food delivered. All delivery vehicles were refused entrance. Having the privilege of leaving the premises meant that I didn't have to order junk food and risk getting caught. I could simply go out to any fast food joint and bring food back with me. It all started out as an exclusive club. Myself and my friends were munching on McDonald's and KFC as the plebeians were having the filthy, healthy cafeteria food. Then I was offered something I couldn't refuse: money. Not long after, I had built a whole operation for bootlegging junk food into the school. We had cutoff times for orders, a priority list for regular customers, extra fees for late orders, and even a spreadsheet for keeping a record of orders, payments, and profits. This smuggling was next level. We were organized, knew all the fire exits, where to walk to avoid corridor cameras, and how to pack the food so that it's unnoticeable when walking in. Mostly used sports bags with a thin layer of clothes. The teachers knew something was going on. There was food wrappers everywhere, but no one knew how it came in. Business was booming, and I was making profits of $50 a day for 3 to 4 days a week, but it wasn't enough. I was hungry for more. There was a fat kid that ordered regularly, so I pulled the most a-hole move you could do to your best customer. I started charging 2 times the price for his orders, and I would hide behind a a BS moral barrier claiming we were doing this for his own good, since we learned in economics that increased prices reduce demand, and so he would be eating less and he would lose weight. The kid saw straight through the BS, but in the end he couldn't resist it and continued ordering from me. Mahmoud D, if you are reading this, I'm sorry. Alright, so when is the Netflix series coming out? Because this is juicy. Abusing your powers and making a profit? So I guess you became a successful politician? Prefects and head boys exist outside of Hogwarts? I know it's hard to believe, but Britain is a real place. This is the guy you go to when you want a heist planned out. For real, I honestly can't believe that you actually did like spreadsheets to track your profits, like you're actually doing business. I leave fake parking tickets on cars that deserve real ones. I ordered a batch of them off Amazon and leave them wherever. Sometimes if nobody is around, I make an effort and fill in all the details on it to freak them out before they get to the bottom and see it's a fake. Sometimes I just write something dumb in the comments and leave the rest blank. I've left them on cars at my university that aren't technically illegally parked, and on cars that are parked in no parking zones at my grocery store. I especially do it when somebody is parked in a handicap spot that's not supposed to. No plate or hang tag. Local laws are sketchy on this. Some would argue it's misrepresenting itself as official and therefore illegal, but at the bottom of them they say they're fake. So others would argue the worst they could get me on is littering if the police actually cared enough to do something. Well, as we all know, the cops will only do something if they're bored enough. The fact that they sell them on Amazon. Yeah, I might actually have to look into that just for some mild trickery. Put your PayPal info there and see how many people pay you. It can be done. Should put one of those fake folded $100 bills that tell you to find Jesus near the car as well. Hit them with a double whammy. I feel like that's just like a purely evil combo to do. I use my roommate's face towel to clean up his pee. He still hasn't noticed. I go to college in Midwest United States. I live in a dorm and have a roommate who shares a bathroom with me. He's not from the United States and seems a little nervous to talk to anybody who isn't from his home country. The first few weeks of college, I started to notice pee on the toilet seat. No big deal. I cleaned it up. After about the 10th time, I asked him if he could stop peeing on the toilet seat, or if he does, wipe it up. He said okay and went on his day. About 3 months later, I started to notice pee all over the floor, toilet seat, and all around the toilet. Worse than before. I used my own toilet paper and started going through it very quickly, so it was getting expensive. I ended up walking over to his side of the counter and grabbing one of his extra towels. I've been using it to clean pee for about 1 month now, and I've definitely noticed a change in color due to the urine, and the fact that I've never seen him wash it. I feel bad about it, but what he's doing is disgusting, and I've tried to tell him to stop many times. Should I feel sorry and stop? I would say you could find a different towel to use, maybe not that. No, he needs to wash his towels and wipe his piss up. That is a pretty good point. I still don't think you should be doing it to his face towel. Next time, leave it on the floor. Message sent. I changed my grade senior year of high school with the principal in the room. It was senior year of high school, and we were doing a partnered assignment in environmental science, tracking the river behind the school to find its source. There was an odd number of students, and I was okay with working alone. That day, the principal was observing the teacher, evaluating her performance. My teacher trusted me and gave me her laptop to do the assignment, and asked if I would show the principal what we were doing. I agreed and quickly finished my assignment. The principal and teacher were standing by the door chatting, so I opened the Power School app. There it is, all my friends' grades, including mine, staring at me in an Excel-style format. I noticed copious amounts of zeros by my name, dragging my grade down somewhere in the low 70s. I was a minimal effort high schooler. I quickly changed most of the zeros to 70s or 60s. This way it wouldn't look too suspicious. My heart was racing as I saved the updated grades and didn't tell anyone for a few years, including my best friend/brother. I never got caught, and I still grin thinking about it 6 years later. I mean, your teacher practically gave you the golden ticket. They should have logged out of it if they were giving you their laptop. It ain't much, but it's not honest, LOL. Part of your education is learning how to navigate the system, weighing the consequences and taking opportunities when they present themselves. You didn't harm anyone else by boosting your points, but he ain't a real friend for not changing his friend's grades too. That is a good point. Why didn't you go ahead and help your buddies out? You had the chance. Well, it's all in the past anyways, so it doesn't really matter. Just like this video is going to be in the past because it's over. Thank you all once again for watching. My name has been Brandon. and I will say things at you later.
Bye!